I am here to talk about the design of pseudo-participation on behalf of all the authors. This exploratory paper started when we started sharing experiences about the way we had been studying the construction of socio-technical systems. We all acknowledge that participation is very important to address many design issues, but we also had many shared experiences on how sometimes we felt as instruments when using some digital tools. And that made us question who is designing these tools and whose decision matter when we are designing these tools. Who do they benefit? Who do they serve? Technology is known for embodying the values and assumptions of those who create it. And digital tools for public participation also embody the power dynamics that are in place in the context that they are being developed. So that brought to us a lot of concerns about the digital tools themselves and the processes being used to create them. And we decided to examine these thoughts through the lenses of technocratic clientelism. So we started looking at how sometimes the roles of the citizen and the client are being mixed up, and how some government services view their citizens as clients. And what does that mean? That means that they are seen as clients of public services, not as citizens with political interests. Therefore, the tools that are being created embed assumptions about the expected roles of the inhabitants of the city. And this is a concept that was proven in a case in Norway, where they studied many websites, many municipal websites, and the way that those features were organized. So as we discussed this concept, we started realizing that, hey, this is one instance of like the many different types of like instrumentation that can happen. And we conceptualize our experiences as something we call pseudo-participation. And in this paper, we conceptualize pseudo-participation as participation without agency, that has either been configured by a designed artifact or that has happened within a design processes. And we illustrate those two instances by bringing some examples. For example, when we talk about pseudo-participation by design, we talk about how power relates to the opportunity to reconfigure user roles in digital services. We talk about interfaces and about tools and how they embody preset agendas. There is, for example, here an example of a survey that was launched in a city in Finland, and that survey was aimed at gathering information from the citizens about which color of a bus they wish for the new transport system. However, participants were not really allowed to participate in any other way to redesign this system that was left to others to do. So that was a very interesting process. The artifact as such, like the survey could have like, hey, these are your options, and the 4 options that you have already been decided for you. And furthermore, this is your role in the entire process is just to tell us which are the color of the buses. There are also like interfaces that provide some impression of neutrality, but they are not really open to scrutiny, and that's the case, for example, of many voting interfaces that do not really open the way that the algorithms are processing the questions, and they may as well be misinforming their voters by not opening up those algorithms. The second instance of pseudo-participation we highlight in this paper is pseudo-participation in design. And in here we look at like approaches where the participants is seen mainly as an instrument. So those affected by the decisions are often not involved. There is an appearance of effectiveness by having a participatory process, but the participatory process lacks popular control and people's agency is not existent, and people are instruments basically. And we bring in here a couple of examples. One example is the example of Boaty Mac Boat Phase, and that's an example from the UK in 2016. They launched this naming competition, and people could choose the name of a research vessel. They chose a name, and the name was Boaty Mac Boat Phase, but the name at the end was deemed as not appropriate and it was not used. So the process happened, but the final outcome that the people chose was not chosen as appropriate. Another example we bring in here is the example of smart cities and the way they handle data. How the data that smart cities collect, for example, through official processes by having citizen sciences contributing to a call by the city, is deemed as data that is usable for a decision-making process, but data that is being collected by citizens themselves about something they care about is not deemed, or not, it doesn't have the very same level of power. And there we illustrate this with a case that happened in the US on how, some neighbors were mapping vacant properties and their data was at the end not used for decision making. So we think that many people has had experiences with pseudo-participatory systems, with pseudo-participatory processes, and we would really like to hear your experiences. So we created this survey over here. Well, it's not a survey, it's actually like a board where you can go and you can leave us your opinions about this talk, your opinions about the paper, your critiques. You can also leave us your experiences with like some pseudo-participatory systems or processes, and we would really appreciate it. So what's next for us? So this is an exploratory work and we still are working on this, and we think that conceptualizing the pseudo-participation under these two categories could really help us examine the way the systems are being designed and how these systems play once they have been designed, and how they play in society. So for one, we are mapping online participation patterns in e-government platforms. We are analyzing how the e-government platforms and their features are configuring user roles. And secondly, we are trying to reimagine how people who would be like the beneficiaries or the users, how would they imagine participation in the future? So we are trying to reframe participation by using some participatory design approaches. And basically, those are the things we talk about in this paper. We suggest you to read it. We think that it's enjoyable read. We enjoyed a lot writing it. And we look forward to connecting with you through the board we have created. We wish you a lovely conference. Thank you for watching this video.